following program is an exclusive Disruption Networks production.
Hey, Disruption Network. This is Mike Sacco, the general manager at Nye Volkswagen of Rome. If you don't know me by name, it's only because you have not received the best deal. There's only one reason to leave Utica, and that's to come see me in Rome and get the best deal on your next new, pre-owned, or certified VW. Mention that you heard this ad from Disruption Network and receive $250 off your next vehicle purchase. You'll know why our customers say, I love my Nye VW. Come see us at 5865 Rome Taberg Road in Rome or visit us online at nyvwofrome.com.
The Property Sisters of the Mohawk Valley was born when 3 top producing agents with over 25 years of combined experience selling real estate joined forces to take real estate to the next level. We practice with honesty, integrity, and the knowledge to help make the buying and selling process easy and stress-free for all of our clients. We pledge to always make our clients our top priority from start to finish and even after the house is closed. We will always be a valued resource for information and assistance for our buyers and sellers. Our customers over the years have become not only past clients, but great friends. As we join hands together as the Property Sisters of the Mohawk Valley, we look forward to serving our clients and our community and making a positive difference. You can reach us at 315-601-9630 for all of your real estate needs.
Hi, this is attorney Nick Pasalacqua. The team of attorneys I have assembled at Pasalacqua & Associates has been carefully hand-picked to include the best trial attorneys in the particular areas of the law that we practice. Have you been charged with DWI or any other crime? Members of our team include former assistant district attorneys, now fighting to protect your rights 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Have you or someone you love been seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident? Members of the team at Pasalacqua & Associates include former insurance defense attorneys, now fighting to ensure that you get every penny you're entitled to. If you need legal help quick, don't waste your time or money calling anyone else. Remember, for legal help quick, you better call Nick and the team at Pasalacqua & Associates. 315-500-NICK or 315-500-6425 or visit cnytriallaw.com today.
Welcome to EC Radio Podcast. We would like to thank all of our sponsors for joining the Disruption team, and we hope that you will support all of our sponsors. And of course, we appreciate you listening to this program.
EC Radio, Disruption Networks. EC Radio, Disruption Networks.
Yeah, baby. Can you feel that? That's that distorted voice coming through your ear hole each and every day here on the D, baby. DisruptionNetwork.net. Check us out worldwide. All the platforms, all the social medias. We're everywhere. You know where to find us. It's me, Z. How are you? Hope you're enjoying your Tuesday. It is Tuesday today, right, Chicken?
Yes. It
is Tuesday? Finally got it right. I never know what day it is. I wonder why. Anyways, I hope everybody's enjoying their Tuesday. You hear that voice in the background? That is my man, Chicken.
What's up?
How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man.
And joining us today, man, we got a very educational show going on today, man. Educational from Legalize at CNY. Our friends Mike and Gary joining us today. We're going to get into the whole marijuana discussion today.
How many times did we have to tell these guys to shut up? Because we're like, no, save it for the air, save it for the air.
Right. We're going to have some good discussion with these guys in just a little bit, but I do want to give some love and respect out to our friends from the American Cancer Society. Yes. After the show was done yesterday, our friend Mel came by, and she dropped us off this letter of acknowledgement. Super cool, thanking us for being a part of the Relay for Life and providing the entertainment and broadcasting live. And, Chicken, we got our first plaque. I think this is our first plaque.
I was just happy to be there, they didn't kick us out.
Yeah, I know.
Degenerates.
I know, especially because you're on the offenders list, too.
Right?
I know.
Anyways.
I'm sorry. I'm always blowing up your spot. Plus, they gave us this cool plaque. Look at this.
I know, it's awesome.
We got a plaque. We have hanging up in the office that we never use. We got something to put on the wall.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. That was awesome.
So big ups to our friends at the American Cancer Society. And by the way, we are going to be a part of the Real Men Wear Pink in October. I'm going to dye the beard pink again like I did last October. And we're going to get the whole D crew involved. Everybody's getting involved for that. And we're going to raise money for the American Cancer Society. And I got to get my friend Lauren Siegel out here. Lawrence, the crazy can man out in
Oh,
Syracuse
Can Man.
that runs around with the pink cans, and he collects all the cans, and every dime that goes into those cans go into the American Cancer Society. He's been leading the Real Men Wear Pink campaign. He's still collecting.
I want to see.
He's been number 1 for the last 3 years.
I want to see Can Man and Kite Man together.
Ooh, that's a lot of.
That's a lot of intensity.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
they both they come off crazy, and they got to be a little on the unusual side,
But they're positive.
but they're very positive, and
Exactly.
the message is great.
Exactly.
And they're trying to actually do something. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, they're actually out there doing something, trying to make other people's lives better.
Lawrence has been the number 1 fundraising guy for the Real Men Wear Pink and the Cancer Society for the last 3 years. He raised $25,000, and this year he's going to be at the New York State Fair with his pink cans, and he's got a team, and it's amazing what he's doing, and I'm all about him, and I'm supporting everything that guy's got going on because we are also a part of the Real Men Wear Pink. And you're going to wear pink, dude. I'm telling you right now, you got to wear pink the whole month of October, and so does Ease Beats and Bizz.
I better do some shopping
I'm
or
calling
something.
everybody out on the D. If you got a show on the D, you're going to be wearing pink the whole month of October. Even Addie, too. Even though it's men, but we're still Real Men Wear Pink. But I think it's a whole campaign.
She's more of a man than half of us.
Ha! She can kick the shit out of most of us,
Yeah,
too.
right? Wow.
But one more time, thanks to our friends from the American Cancer Society. This is super cool. I was beside myself yesterday when she gave me this thing. We got our first plaque. I was like, wow, excited.
It's really cool.
Yes.
And, it kind of fits to what we got going on today,
Indeed, because what we got going on today, Legalize at CNY. We got our friends in the house. Now, we were talking before we got on the show, and what it is, it's a Facebook page that has grown significantly in just a few short months. Yeah. And Gary's here to talk about that, as well as Mike. How you guys doing?
Well, that's because they named it Free Weed.
No.
How you guys doing? It's good to see both of you.
It's great.
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Yeah, and Mike, you were recently on when we had D-Raz and
Yeah, the Brothers Grimm were live. Yeah,
jamming out some tunes. And Gary's an old music guy, too. Gary's music out in Rome.
Especially the old part.
I remember Gary from back in the day. The Fireside Saloon, right? Fireplace. What was it called?
It was just the Fireside.
The Fireside.
Above the old hotel there in Rome.
My
Had a
DNA is
great
all
run,
over
man.
that hotel.
Oh, I remember that place. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I think I seen your DNA there.
I'm telling you, we had some wild nights in that place back in the Funk Daddy days. Joe
That's
Mama.
probably why I fell down the stairs.
On his DNA.
Yeah,
You slipped on my DNA, but that's some fun times there, and you provided a lot of great. You provided a great space for those fun
It was
times.
all about the music, that's for sure.
Indeed, man, indeed. And you still have the music store, right?
I still have the music store. I've been there for, I've been in business over 35 years. Well, it'll be 35 years in September.
Wow.
So I won,
Yeah.
and in music retail, mom and pop shops in general, but particularly music retail, particularly vulnerable to big box competition and internet competition. So it's a struggle, but it provided for all the years I needed it to, and I was putting kids through high schools and colleges and music schools and law schools, and all. It provided. And around the time that they grew up, moved away, and stopped asking for money, I stopped making it. But it's okay because I still have about the same amount in my pocket as I did back then. So it's been a great run. I'm still there. I'm still dealing with school kids and school music, instrument
Awesome.
rentals,
Good,
and all that.
good.
And somebody's got to be left to sell reeds, sticks, strings, and picks.
Seriously.
That's me.
In Rome.
I'm in Rome, so I'm your guy in Rome.
And it's a shame too, because some of those stores, like the record stores and music stores, those were they had class. They had a character to it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's kind of going away. But so when I talk to my salesmen and I talk to the people who call on me all the time, and they obviously go to all the other music stores in their district. They tell me, well, I ask, what are the other guys doing? How's this guy doing? How are your sales? And they say, it's been pretty bleak. And then I'll ask, well, what are other store owners doing? And one of my guitar salesmen in particular, it was kind of eye-opening. Well, I got one guy opened up a gun shop in part of his store. Yeah, cool, because that's what he knows about. Another guy opened up a cafe, and he's selling baked goods and things while people are waiting for lessons. So I'm thinking,
that's not a bad idea.
What the hell do I know about? Well, so I opened a little side business called Gigs. Gary's Indoor Garden Supply.
Nice.
That's my jumping off.
Just gigs.
Just gigs.
Yeah.
Not Gary's gigs, just gigs.
Just gigs. Gary's Indoor Garden Supply, because indoor gardening grows on you. So there are some people.
He's got a million
I was
of
like,
those. by
life's
the
a
way.
ditch, dig it.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a million of
He's
those.
the king of the pun.
That was a year and a half ago. And it kind of took off, not hugely, but there are some days when gigs makes the day. Maybe the music side of the store was a slow day, but gigs made the day. And it's really a pleasure to deal with the people who grow their own plants. And yeah, some of them are growing their own medicine, probably the greatest share. And I have no problem with that. But there are other people. They're growing herbs. They're growing teas. They're growing a lot of different wellness plants. Along with whatever they're growing that we shouldn't talk about, and we all call it tomatoes. But that's what I knew a little bit about for whatever reason. And contrary to popular belief, the people I deal with on that side of the store, and I didn't see this coming myself, are almost always over 50. Many times over 60.
Yeah?
Isn't that a surprise?
Really?
Yeah,
For the
why
tomato
not?
plants?
Yeah, for the tomato plants.
I'm surprised. That does shock me.
Does me too.
Because that's the generation that has the reefer madness mentality. And
Well-
I posted that on Facebook today. I feel like it's still stuck in their head that pot's a bad thing or tomatoes.
Right.
Obviously not the ones coming in looking for GH nutrients. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Historically, that's true, which is why I was so surprised. I also think a component of that, the young ones, who are into it, they have their own thing already, and they do their thing, and they have their sources. But it's been a real pleasure to work with people and to help them, and then to hear back from them that it worked. So hopefully that'll be a component of whatever legalization we see brought forth, that people are allowed to grow their own medicine within a decent parameters, with a reasonable plant count at home, and to process it for themselves, because dispensaries are not, retail establishments are not, no matter what plant you're talking about, the closer we can get to the whole plant we consume, the better off we are. So there's only one way to know 100% what's in that plant you consume, whether it's your tomato, your cucumber, your squash, that you grew it yourself, you knew what you fed it with, and you know exactly what you have at the end. I mean, look at the recalls on foods we get from our normal grocery stores, for goodness sakes. So, and for those people who want to be customers and use the dispensaries when they come, and I certainly believe they're going to, great. I'll be there too, to maybe buy seeds and clones and to sample some of their beautiful products. But boy, there's nothing, in my opinion, and Michael might disagree, but there's nothing, in my opinion, in any dispensary. I won't say that you can't duplicate, because equipment can keep you from duplicating, but there's nothing in the dispensary that you can't replicate at home.
Oh yeah, that's 100% sure,
okay.
though.
I'm glad you feel that.
If not, make better yourself if you're skilled,
Right. Maybe
The thing with the dispensaries is really it's a novelty more than anything. It's just like being able to buy alcohol for the first time when Prohibition was lifted.
Oh yeah,
and California is huge. Like all the celebrities, they have their like their cannabis stops. Like you see. What's his name? Seth Rogen, all the time, pictures of him at his hot spot buying his stuff for the day. Like, it's a huge novelty. And for all the people that are using it recreationally or medicinally, you have the ability to just be on the go and be like, oh shit, I'm going to stop at this place over here and just pick up what I need for the day. Where, to be that guy who's doing it yourself, that's a whole bigger operation.
Yeah, it's a lot of work too. People don't really understand how much work it takes.
Absolutely.
It could be a full-time job.
Well, speaking of tomatoes, I mean, anybody could grow tomatoes at home, but it's so much easier to go to a grocery store and just buy some tomatoes.
Exactly.
So like, you know what I'm saying? Like, not everybody's going to grow all the time. It's so much easier to go out and buy your own.
Absolutely.
And people don't have time. That factors into it. And
you have to remember too, there's everything that goes along with growing. There's expense, there's the time, the work that you talk about. Also, it's going to stink a little bit, there's landlords that's just not going to have it.
That too.
There's city dwellers that live in high rises or for a multitude of reasons that you don't have time. So that's where the dispensaries, will fill a void.
Right.
I'm certainly not opposed to them. I will certainly think it's the greatest thing to happen in New York when it happens, and it's going to.
It's going to happen.
But don't say people.
We're so close right now. We were just talking on the ride up here about how Cuomo had amassed a group of people that not only had to come up with, is this going to work out in New York, but they actually had to provide a plan, a step-by-step plan now, to legalize marijuana in
you mean a
upstate New
dollar
York.
by dollar spreadsheet
Dollar by
on how
dollar.
much he's going to get, right?
You know it.
You're talking about the commission that he's appointing,
and
right
they
now.
just posted last night that he now has said, okay, I accept this information. I have what they were supposed to do, and now we're going to start putting this plan into action. So as of last night at I think it was 1:00 in the morning, I was reading it. As of last night, as of yesterday, he has the results, and they're getting ready to make a plan. So that's how close we are to recreation in upstate New York. Now, is that going to probably be drawn out till after the November primaries?
Of course.
100% guarantee that.
Mm-hmm.
So we might, and a weird thing to talk about is what happens when they go on TV and say, okay, it's legalized. Because what happens is people go crazy. They just start whipping out their joints in public. They're on the city bus getting high. It just goes absolutely nutso. And Vermont just had a huge issue with it because they were all last year, right? I think it was, they were like, we're going to do legalizations on the docket. They actually voted against it. But they did have something in place to work. And that was the Gifting and Reciprocity Act, where you can go, we were talking about last time, so you can go to a big car dealership and they can gift you all kinds of stuff for free and tax write it off, and it's totally legal. It's not against the books or the IRS or anything. Well, so what the businesses were doing this with cannabis. Since cannabis was legal to, I think, possess at the time.
And legal to give away. So
and legal to give away.
an ounce. Yeah.
As long as you're not selling it. So you could go in and buy a $2 candy bar and pay for the $60 gift, and walk out with your medicine at the same time.
In other words, a $60 candy bar
$60 candy bar.
comes with a free bag of weed.
They made it legal to be super shady.
Yeah,
They did.
But
Weird.
their attorney general clamped down on that.
Yeah.
though.
So that didn't work out, and then they actually voted for recreational cannabis, which just won, and they announced it's recreational now. But now what's happening is the streets are going gonzo. People are smoking everywhere, so they actually, within a couple weeks to a month of actually becoming recreational, Vermont had to go back out live and say, okay, it is recreational, it is going to happen, but that doesn't mean that it's legal to go out into the streets and use all over the place.
Well, couldn't they follow the same guidelines as alcohol?
That's exactly what we were talking about on the way up here. That's exactly how
21 and over.
True.
You can't drink a beer on the bus. You
we
can't
said
drink
the
a
same.
beer at
You
work.
can't drink a beer on the street anywhere in the United States except if there's a special permit or a function going on.
But people still do.
As it should be.
Right. People
And
are
they
still
will.
going to do whatever. I mean, people are still going to eat Tide Pods.
Right.
It's just if you have those, that's why those laws are in place, so you can actually, throw them in jail or give them a ticket or whatever it may be.
Right. You would think that that'd be common sense. So what's happening now is when a lot of states they call this adult use when it goes recreational. It's not called recreational anymore. Nomenclature for this industry is huge. And me and Gary talked about it extensively. So the adult use now, most of these states are looking at 18 and older, 21 older as the adult use limit, and
You have to be 18 in Colorado, right? Or 21?
18 in Colorado.
Okay.
Yep. And so this is kind of the standard that's been set forth that all these states are trying to work with as their thing. But you would just naturally think that somebody that's ever drinking a beer in their life would be like, okay, it's okay for me to smoke. Nobody's going to kick down my door and arrest me. But you would think that they're going to be like, I'm not going to smoke this on the public bus, though, because that seems like a bad idea.
Right.
I wouldn't drink a beer there. I'm not going to be trying to puff one down there. But it's not.
And you can't smoke on a bus now, anyways. Like cigarettes.
Smoke anything.
Yeah.
And smoke anything anywhere in public.
Well, the funny thing though is when Washington State actually went recreational adult use, there was thousands of people in the public square, and when it hit midnight, they all just lit up. And so that's the kind of thing that you're seeing. People are so excited about when it happens. The novelty of like, I was there on the exact minute it hit 12 o'clock.
It was history.
And I was history. I lit that joint on that exact moment.
And I forgot the rest of the night.
Yeah. And I realized I was in New Jersey, not Washington.
And I didn't do a damn thing after.
I think we want to give the listeners and viewers a good overall picture, because I get the sense not everyone understands what's really going on in New York. You know?
That's true.
And so if we could back up, I don't want to back up too far, but back up to the health department report that came out was just the end of June. Mm-hmm. So people should realize with that, because a lot of people mistakenly think, well, they legalized marijuana. No, they didn't legalize anything. So the health department the health department study was a study also funded by the governor, or through his orders, that had a mystery panel. I tried through multiple, through Senator Griffith's office, through a few other government avenues to find out exactly who was on the panel, because I wanted to write to them. I wanted to lobby them. I wanted to know who was on it and get a sense of what their function might be. Would they be more prone to be pro or con? Well, it turned out, and he didn't even say it was the health department, at first. It was just a panel, to study the possibility. Well, it came out as the health department, and then I was very leery. Well, they're going to be, oh man, it's going to be, they're going to make all kinds of reefer madness claims. Then the report came out. I've got it here. It's amazing. It's probably one of the most complete, succinct, reasonable, well-researched, full of facts and data and documents and proof reports I think I've ever read. In the recommendation
from the state of New York.
For the state of New York.
Come on.
You have to read it.
For real.
And it recommends on every page adult recreational legalization and why. And it puts to rest, when you have a government official even now, well, I have questions. I have one that I'm dealing with now. I have questions. What part of your own health department report do you not understand? Where are your
Where's his
questions
cutbacks coming?
What about the children?
Right.
It's there, man. What about traffic highway safety? It's there, man.
Yeah.
What about the gateway theory? It's there, man. What about the fact that it helps people get off of opiates? It's all there.
Not just in our state too,
what
but
part have you not read?
There's no problem with opiates. What are you talking about?
Not just in our state, but other states too. Like their
absolutely.
reports are like, if you put all these reports together, they're all saying the same thing.
Unmistakable. So the health department report recommends what it recommends. That got back to the governor. So now he has the new commission. They're tasked. They have been tasked with following the recommendations of the health department's report. So their task is to draft legalization legislation. Their task is not to argue it anymore. So I don't really want to argue it anymore, except to point to people. We can go back and we can argue all these things, but that's old arguments. Read your own health department's report, and I can go in the weeds with you, and I can go back decades and decades to back it up, but it's all there. So the encouraging thing is this current panel, their job is to draft legalization legislation, not to question it, to draft it, and the devil will be in the details then.
So to plug in some other pieces into there, as when I worked at I worked for one of the local grow operations in New York medically, and I dealt with the health department every day. I had to talk to these people every day. A lot of those people knew nothing about cannabis whatsoever. So it's people like myself that were one of the growers was educating these people. They would ask questions, and a lot of the times, as a business person, you don't really want to talk to the state at all. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, the state's here. You don't really want to work with them. But I found it the opposite. I asked these people, what do you know? And they didn't know very much. And I was like, well, you guys need to come into this room. And I'd take them into the grow room and I'd show them, this is what a plant looks like at this week. This is what's happening. This has this constituents. If you talk to the lab guys, it's this. And they were just like, one of the ladies just had a smile on her face so big. She's like, I learned more about growing anything in my whole life in 10 minutes standing here with you than I have in any book I've ever read about gardening. And so the state, they're not really even ready for this. We don't even have laboratories. Like, the biggest thing for me with medical marijuana or recreational marijuana is not just the availability for all of us to be great. It's recognized that we can use this, and it's not demonized. None of us are going to go to jail for 20 years for possessing some cannabis. But the big deal is research. Because we're finding more and more every day that this stuff is helping. Seizures is like the biggest thing right now.
Right.
They're using CBD and THC to treat seizures. You have people with multiple sclerosis who haven't been able to get out of the wheelchair in like 5 to 10 years, and they've been given Rick Simpson oil, and they're standing up, walking, and making sandwiches. It's just phenomenal what this medicine is doing. But New York State isn't ready for the research part. Because we don't have private labs here. We have one lab, and it's...
Well, I think we found you a job.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
we have one lab in New York State, and that lab does the testing for everything else in New York State. They're not ready. So we actually have to really get into even some deeper stuff. Like, we have to form a cannabis branch of laboratories for New York. We have to form cannabis cabinet members.
Couldn't you outsource that, like somebody in Denver or...
Can't. It's illegal to cross any kind of cannabis materials over state lines.
Yeah.
Right.
So it all has to be with... Everything is dependent upon how the state is really working.
And with research, it's federal too, because by federal law, and you probably saw the most recent Sanjay Gupta piece.
Yeah.
And it was just CBD. And so I forget who was doing the research. They wanted to research CBD. And they got the green light to research CBD oil. But to be allowed to do that, the federal government demanded that they install in the building that we're going to do our research a vault of which the likes... You could store freaking plutonium.
Oh, man, yeah.
In there. I mean, I'm watching this. I'm in just utter disbelief. What the hell did you think that the cannabis oil is going to do?
It's for real. It's for real.
But they had to build. They had to install a $250,000 or $500,000, even $500,000 vault, and to do that they had to reinforce the building to hold the vault, and all it was going to hold is some weed oil.
Yeah. Not even psychoactive.
Right,
Non-psychoactive.
This wasn't even weed. It was just
CBD.
It was hemp CBD. So that's how crazy the regulations are.
And this CBD oil is huge right now.
You know what,
it's
guys?
Exploding at the moment.
5 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, let's just fast forward a second. We'll go in the weeds a second. But we're going to look back at the 60s and 70s and even now, because it's just exploding, the endocannabinoid system and how cannabis interacts with it and the good that's being done and
the technology
and the relief that people are getting and the cures that are going to be brought forth. We're going to look back. There's going to be a generation, like we have a generation today that grew up in a time where there was always the internet. It was always there, right?
Right.
There's going to be a time when kids are going to grow up and the cannabis and the leaf, it'll be just a normal thing. It'll be in some windows and people use it, and grandpa's on it and grandma's on it, and they're using it in sports medicine over here for the football team, and it's just a normal thing, and it's doing great things for everybody, and you sons of bitches, you made this illegal?
Right.
I mean, there was a time when you put people in jail for using this?
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Yeah.
Judas Priest almost went to jail for a song. So, you know what I mean? And that wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah.
You're talking the 80s.
Yeah, that's not too long ago.
It just, you look at it and you're like, really, people? Like, that's crazy. But, you look at it, just kind of what you're saying is, you're putting farmers back to work. They're gonna have college courses.
It's beginning.
It's already started.
You can major
in
in hemp or whatever.
Both in California and Colorado, that's possible right now.
Because you think about there's the agricultural part of it, there's distribution, the marketing, the whatever.
Transportation, processing. It's a product. So every segment of it, it's an industry. So every segment of every industry, from production to consumption and everything in between.
And research and development.
Applies.
Research and development.
Which could take us.
Right. And every one of those elements or steps along the way require human beings. Human beings mean jobs.
Yeah.
We're talking about history here, but the funny thing is that we're really just getting back to where we were in the 1800s.
Right.
Good point. One,
In the
one of our members said,
yeah, in the
stop saying legalize. He said re-legalize.
Re-legalize it.
Yeah.
And we're big on, we're also big on like the words too, because cannabis is the industry. That's how we refer to it in the industry. It's cannabis. It's not marijuana anymore. Marijuana is actually a Latin American term for the plant. And the reason that it's even illegal to this day is because of xenophobia and racism that had to do with the immigrants that were coming up into Texas from Mexico, and they were bringing with them the plant. And at that same time, our state was growing over 400,000 acres of hemp production. And that threatened our personal production of hemp. And the xenophobist people that were in office, they wanted to kill migration or immigration too. So they said, well, how can we stop these people? Because we have no reason to stop them. There was no big immigration policy at the time, no border security. They're like, what do we do? Well, they're definitely going to have this marijuana on them, and we have to stop them to see if they have that, because we don't allow that, not them, we don't allow that into our country. Because
you're right. It never was about the plant.
It wasn't about the plant. And so we used the plant to get at those people. And then later on, what happened is the farmers that were growing the hemp decided, well, we're growing it for the federal government. That's it. The only person that was buying the hemp, 400,000 acres, mind you. And I think Nebraska was like the biggest hemp grower at the time, or Oklahoma or something. Midwest was making the most money. They finally got shut down because they started selling it to other people than the government. So the government made them arrested. There's two brothers that got arrested. I can't remember. You can look it up. There's an actual criminal court case that went down, and it's named after them. The federal government went after them because they didn't pay their taxes for selling this product. Well, they didn't have to pay taxes when they were selling it to the federal government, but they started selling it outside that circle, and now they wanted tax money. So the second big part to all of this is not only is it a very outdated criminalization, Schedule 1, which is ridiculous. But the other part is that right now, all these industries have to pay some kind of agricultural tax or some kind of processing tax or renting fee or something. If this was all, we could just grow as much as we want anytime we want, the government would make absolutely $0. Big goose egg. Nothing. So a lot of it is about the money as well as the taxation and who has the right views, what's a red state or a blue state, how do they feel about the issue.
Yep.
But
it's always political.
It's political too, right? And if we look at what's happening right now with Cuomo, and we've talked about this a couple times. I'm not a big Cuomo fan, never was.
No.
But I tell you what, if that man tomorrow says I'm definitely going to recreationally legalize marijuana in upstate New York, he has my vote in November.
Well, his party has adopted the cause.
That's perfect.
Party-wide.
Back up to the reason why they legalized it, made it illegal.
Yeah.
What about the paper mills too? There was this whole ongoing thing with the paper mills.
So the paper mill industry wasn't making any money because hemp
was so big.
Hemp was the best thing. We were making our military uniforms out of it, our parachutes out of it, our clothes out of it.
Yeah.
So we had to outsource absolutely nothing to make in-house goods for our military. So we could fund our military infrastructure with the growth of hemp because there was no money down on it. We didn't have to import anything. And it's still to this day the strongest fiber.
Right.
It's stronger than anything else made. And the dollars used to be made of hemp. That tax note, we made our money out of the hemp that we grew here.
The idea hemp was ever illegal is surreal.
Right. So it's weird. We're talking about time. We backtrack. So this is how it came about. But Colorado legislators just put in a big thing into the House, and it's called the State Act. Now, this is is some of the new legislation we're seeing around the legalization of cannabis in America. And it's awesome because the State Act puts in place and says that as long as I, as a cannabis cultivator or business owner or investor, as long as I am abiding by the law, then you can't come in and screw with me. The federal government can't come in and screw with me, which is great because the reason cannabis is taking off is because the big money investors now, people that have nothing to do with cannabis for years. There's one guy who was a big, I think he was Kellogg's cereal or something. He retired, sold his fortune, and, was sitting around going, what am I going to do? And the marijuana industry blew up, and he literally spent his life's fortune to go into edibles. And now he's making billions, if that's a real word. Like
it is now.
He's making so much money just making gummy bears and stuff, man. And I mean, if you see the guy's shop, he's got everything from like ring pops to, everything you can imagine. But that's a big problem because nobody really wants to get in bed with the small guys that are growing or anything like that, because any day now the federal government could just be like, we don't like this, and then kick it over. So this new legislation is put in process in Colorado, and it's going to go to the House, is saying that, if I'm a business owner and I'm doing my if the state says it's legal and I'm abiding by those laws, then nobody can come in and take it out, which is even more in one step towards the greater foundation to getting the ability for banks to work with these companies. Because as it stands right now, because the on the federal level, it's not recognized. It's Schedule 1.
Right.
On the DEA's list.
Methamphetamines is Schedule 2, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Cocaine is Schedule 2, by the way.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So needles and heroin, Schedule 2. Cannabis is 1. All controlled substances, most of them fall under Schedule 2, and cannabis is 1.
Which is why it has to come off the DEA schedule, not down a notch. It needs to come off.
Just right off it.
It needs to come off.
When your health department is saying that it's okay and it's still a Schedule 1, it's
Well, the health
Well, that's
department,
believable.
the New York
That's
State Health
unparalleled.
Department isn't saying it's Schedule 1. They don't schedule it. The DEA.
no. I'm saying
yeah.
like they're
When they say it's good for you, right?
endorsing it, yes,
Right.
and it's still on there as a Schedule
When
1.
your
Well-
state capital legalizes it,
Right.
it should have came off
Right.
from like Schedule 1
Exactly.
right then and there,
And
man.
of course, there's
Like-
no secret that the federal government also has a patent on it.
right.
And as an antioxidant, and at the same time, the same federal government says it's.
Wait, what do you
good
mean
for
the
nothing.
government has a patent on
The
it?
government has a patent on THC as an antioxidant. I wish I had the patent number because it's a chant we use sometimes at cannabis conventions and gatherings. But yes, they certainly do. And so it kind of goes against their own DEA that says it's absolutely good for nothing medically, and yet our own government patented it.
At one time, people were walking around with it right next to their cocaine snifter and their hashish pipe.
Well, before
and their opiate pipes, using it for medicine. Like, it literally was something that we all were just utilizing and was helping our country and our government at one time. But because of this xenophobic moment where we wanted to stop immigration and make more money because it was a danger to our in-house companies that were growing the hemp, we put it on Schedule 1, the worst schedule you could get it to.
To me,
I mean,
you
if you want to stop people from coming into your country, and they all carry the same thing, you better put it super high, because otherwise they're going to be like, it's Schedule 3. We're just going to keep going anyways.
Or try building a wall.
Right. Try building.
I think the awareness surrounding cannabis, for the general public, it's an example of like when you get 30 people in the room and you whisper something in one guy's ear and he whispers it to the other guy's ear.
Yeah.
It's around
Telephone game.
So
Yeah.
let's start with a lie. Okay, let's start with a lie this time, and then we'll let it circulate around the country. The lies that have been prevalent,
That's
since
ridiculous.
for almost 100 years now,
yeah.
and then stacked on top of each other, it's just
Politically.
amazing how many people just assume. I mean, there are people I run into. You can give them facts, you can give them data, you can give them charts, you can give them real-time things, you can give them chemistry and science, and they'll just come back with, that's just not the way I feel.
Yeah.
The politicians now have lied more. It's like blatant. It's blatant now.
Right.
And back in the day, they were good at covering up their
Right,
lies.
right.
But now they're just like, "Pff, I lied, whatever."
We were talking about
Yeah.
Nixon too. Like when Nixon went into office, because of the tapes, the Nixon tapes. If you don't know what those are, that's the behind the doors tapes of Nixon being a straight up racist. and also hating on hippies. Like those were the two. He hated African Americans and he hated hippies, and he wanted to eradicate both of them during the 60s.
We talking about Trump?
No, we won't
It's
go
funny
there.
how history repeats itself.
History's looking very, very.
I'm a crook. I mean,
yeah. I'm not.
But he commissioned a report, and he did not like the. He didn't like the results of that report, so he buried it.
So he wanted. So Nixon wanted to get rid of like these two parties, and he again went for the marijuana thing because that's what they both had in common. And he was like, well, it worked when we did the 1820 Act. Marijuana Act, Taxation Act against the Mexican Americans. We're going to do it again. So he did the exact same thing and tried to push it a step farther. He had this guy, I think his name is Robert Schaefer. It's called the Schaefer Report, and he came back just like our own health department,
Well,
and
because the information
said,
hasn't changed.
yeah, and he said he was
still a plant.
He was actually tasked purposely with finding all the things that were wrong with it and bringing the worst information to Nixon. Not anything. He's like, I only want to know what's wrong with it. So this guy went out, and when he came back, he was like a true believer. He's like, do you know we should legalize the shit right now?
And
this
make
is
tons
amazing.
of money.
Nope, doesn't make people crazy. Nope, doesn't make people sexually perverted. Nope, doesn't make people.
So Nixon's time was the reefer madness time. That's where they were saying that it was prone to make black Americans go crazy and try to solicit sex from women. This is this is verbatim.
They're
like
gonna go out and
what
kill.
it was. Right.
Yeah.
People get aggressive
murder.
and start killing stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, isn't that alcohol? Like that's
Yeah,
the
right.
exact opposite.
Cocaine.
Cocaine.
Right. Yeah. Nobody ever was like
Meth.
Nobody ever smoked a joint. Was like, you know what? I'm gonna ask some random chick to have sex with me right now. If anything, you got all real like nervous, like, oh my god, like.
Yeah.
I probably should just sit here and say nothing.
No stoner ever beat his wife for burning the roast.
No.
You know, he just sat there and ate, and he's like, "This is great, honey." You know, like
I didn't realize it until yesterday. I'm reading Steve D'Angelo's book, The Cannabis Manifesto, and he really is a fantastic historian, and I would recommend anybody interested in the subject matter.
True pioneer for
Just look at anything he does. Tons of video, tons of writings. But anyway, he, in historical perspective, he recalls Mayor LaGuardia also commissioned a study for, under pressure from people during his term, from people who were questioning this evil weed, and he, of course, he got the same results. You know, no, it's fine, and we don't see it doing anything terrible things to our society. So, you know, the politicians say, I have questions. I think we need more study. Let's talk about study for just a second.
Right.
If you go to the United States National Institute of Health and punch in cannabis, just search cannabis for peer-reviewed, respected studies. Compare cannabis to, cannabis I think has about 1,800 peer-reviewed, so almost 2,000 peer-reviewed studies, if I'm not mistaken.
And if you haven't read any of those, you really should.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome stuff.
The number could be wrong, but what's more important is the difference between studies done on cannabis and studies done on drugs like acetaminophen,
Tobacco.
tobacco, opiates, prescription opiates. There's been like
Millions.
four on the average 3 to 4 times more studies done of cannabis than there has been things that we use every day that we know are killing us, that we absolutely know are killing us. So that doesn't hold water. There needs to be more stuff. We don't have enough information. You're not looking at the information.
The funny thing about that is that if you and I wanted to make this super new workout pill, we could make it out of anything we wanted to, and we could have a private lab test it and give us results. We could literally bribe that lab to say this shit is amazing and does do it exactly what they say it does. That lab only needs to study that for 3 months only. And then once they give me the paper that says that's good to go, I can market the shit out of that. That's an FDA regulation. Any vitamin, any supplement, anything that's out on the market, aspirin, anything, any medications you're taking from your doctor only has a moratorium of, is that the right word? 3 months of research before it can hit the shelf. There's no way that you can test the side effects and everything else on a person in 3 months. Absolutely no way. But yet we need more research for cannabis.
We've been using it 1,000 years.
And that's why you find all these like commercials and recall and shit. You know, if you took
All
blah
the
blah
time.
blah and you're growing male breasts, you know, like
Right.
you better set, you know, like
If you have
call your lawyer.
Babiosis, better call Sal at 800-315. You know, it's
And, like,
ridiculous.
if you
You're
get
taking
anxiety,
heart
like-
medication, and then like your aorta expands. Like call so and so. Yeah, it's dumb.
If you had surgery and still have a goiter on your neck, you need to call ASAP.
There
Yeah.
you go.
I love it, and it's always during Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah.
I had a friend that he had never smoked before, and he was like so anti-weed. Like if we were hanging out smoking, he'd leave. He wouldn't come over because we were smoking. Like just completely, it's
Wow.
illegal. I can't be around it. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah. Like old school mentality. And then over the years, he kept like hanging out and like seeing us all smoking around, and he's like, kind of realized, man, they're not acting like assholes. You know, they seem pretty cool.
There you go.
So one day he was all stressed up and he asked me, like, I was smoking. I'm like, you want some? Fuck it, I'll try it. So I show him how to do it. And he takes a deep breath and 2 hits. I let him 2 hits, let it ride out, see how he does. I don't want to like overstone him, And he's just like, wow, my shoulders, they like dropped. He goes,
Tension
I feel
gone.
so much like at ease, like something just lifted off my chest. And I'm like, now do you feel like you did something illegal? Do you feel like you should go to jail for that?
Yeah, right.
Oh, great point.
You know what I mean? Like, what did you do wrong right now? You feel good.
Right.
You feel less stressed.
I say that to people all the time. So what were you doing? And there's one in particular that I'll never forget. Man feels he has to medicate for pain. Gets up in the morning. His bones are all screwed up, and he's a medical patient, and he feels guilty because he's going to church, and he knows at church, no one at church is behind him on this. It's something he has to hold as a secret. So you have to ask a guy like that. So you have to medicate before you go to church, so you can go to church, so you can feel better. No, and you're talking to an atheist here, but I'm still hearing you. So you have to medicate before you can go to church. So how are you feeling? Well, my hips were hurting, my bones were hurting, and then when you medicate, you're able to go to church, so you can receive better the words of your pastor and the words of your God. I gotta believe your God's cool with this, buddy.
Right.
I gotta believe that if this is your route
this is God's plan for you.
to your spirituality, to you receiving the word as you see it. And to me, it might be to receive a little bit better, a little bit more thoughtful, a movie I'm watching, or maybe to be in a little bit better mood when I get home from a long day's work, or maybe to feel a little bit more fun when I play with my grandkids, or maybe a little bit nicer when I get home and see my wife after a long day. I can't say I'm doing anything wrong when I'm doing this. I'm actually doing something a little bit nice for myself and for those around me.
And most religions mark it as like a sin.
I know.
And you're like, how? How is this a sin?
Well, really, there's only one religion that's doing that, but all the other ones, like Hinduism, actually smoking is actually widely accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Buddhism, it's accepted, but it's seen as a weakness.
And that church in Indiana, the cannabis church.
God bless them.
That church I would join, and they have one commandment.
Thou shalt smoke.
Nope, don't be an asshole.
That's a good commandment.
That's already my
You know
commandment.
what? That pretty much covers it all.
we say here all the time, don't be a dick.
That
Yeah,
pretty
that's
much
already like my
that's
personal
it.
commandment.
Yeah. So just don't be that. I'll join that church.
Yeah, it's weird too because the reports, they come out and they say all kinds of stuff. When I was 21, I read a book that came from Europe. It was probably about that thick, an inch, 2 inches thick, and there was all European studies on cannabis. They did weird studies. Like crazy, like monster movie studies. They did studies on pregnant women who were smoking cannabis while pregnant, and they did it through the full trimesters all the way till birth.
Wow.
And they found in this study, this is the one thing that really blew my mind, is that 5 out of I want to say 5 out of 6 kids, when their mothers were using cannabis while they were in the womb for the full trimester, they came out with higher IQs than the kids that did not have their mother using cannabis.
You track that?
Now, that's a real European study that I read, and it was dated like 1915 was
Wow.
when the study happened. So Europe's ahead of us. A lot of people.
All the countries are ahead of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty much.
Every country's ahead.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't necessarily know they're ahead of us. I think that our government knows this information. It just keeps it hidden.
Right. I mean, so most people don't know right now that marijuana has been medically widely accepted in England for a very long time. They have a patent on a specific strain, not on the plant, because it's ridiculous. You can't do that. That would be, if any company were just like, well, marijuana is now mine, I own it. That was never going to work out. But they have a specific strain that they've bred. They have the patent on that strain. And they have a patent on the medicine. They make these sublingual sprays that have cannabis in them. And it's been used in England for over like 30 years, I think. So it's been going on in England widely for a very long time. And right now, Israel's doing like some really intense like medical marijuana studies. Most of the studies that we have to base off in America are coming from foreign places like Israel, Canada, like everywhere else around us that's actually putting money into researching it. And then we get into the money part. I mean, look at Colorado. They are taking all of the revenues, the extra revenues, by the way, because, you know, let's face it, they're making billions of dollars, and they're able to take a lot of this revenue and they're putting it into schools. They're bringing back school programs that they had to cut because their state budgets didn't have the money, like art programs and music programs and, let's say, lesser sports programs, which by that I mean the ones that aren't football and baseball.
They're building schools themselves.
Yeah, they're building roads and bridges, like all of the infrastructure problems that Colorado has ever had. And let's face it, they build through fucking mountains, man.
Yeah.
Like they build roads through mountains. And they're able to take all that money and put it into the state's infrastructure. And now Oregon is getting on board with it. They're having a little rough time, but they're getting on board with it as well. And our governor also, during the time that he made the committee, he said, I also want all the information on Colorado and Oregon and California and how they're using all of this to make their states better. He wanted that information as well.
They're
it was
fixing
great.
the road.
The health department, the study does cite again and again Colorado and Washington.
Right.
So it's just
They're fixing roads. They're giving money back to the people, too.
Yeah, like last year, I think it was almost $200 per person they were giving away to most of the people in Colorado.
Oh, that's terrible.
Colorado resident. You made money on cannabis and you didn't do shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether you smoke it or not.
Right, whether you believe it or not. I would say that if you're a non-believer and you get that check, you should actually return it.
well, or if your jurisdiction,
Yeah, right.
Return it if you're not into
and
it.
it's happening in some states. If your jurisdiction voted against it,
Yeah, that's another thing.
and you've placed a moratorium or you denied dispensaries in your county or in your city, then your city or county probably shouldn't realize any of the profit.
Right.
Exactly.
We have a question out there from Mark Russ. He said, I heard the Anati County Sheriff is saying cases of DUI has gone up. Is that true?
From DUI from what?
Oneida County Sheriff.
Absolutely false, because
Well, wait a minute. Where is the Oneida County Sheriff saying they went up? Certainly in
And
Oneida
what's the
County.
correlation between?
Let me state the obvious here. DUI could not go up because of cannabis, because they have absolutely no way to test that you have used cannabis and it's impaired you while driving. Absolutely no mechanisms, absolutely no tests. They could take you to have a blood or urine test done at the hospital, but that doesn't say how long ago you actually used the product, because cannabis stays in your system for up to 3 to 4 months
Right.
Before it leaves your body's fat cells.
They can only test you for THC
can-
metabolites that have not yet been metabolized by your body, which can stay in your system
For 3 or 4 months. So that
Damn, we should have Nick Pasalaco on.
so you could test me. You could test me right now and find that I have cannabinoids in my system, and I can drive all over the place sober as a bird and get pulled over, and they piss test me, urine test me, find out I have cannabinoids, and they say, well, you were wasted that whole time. It won't hold up in
Right.
court because there's absolutely no devices that can say how long ago I used the product.
So there's no state authorities out there that have a device to test you if you're
So
under the
Gary
influence
just
of-
posted this thing. Just posted this thing on our website.
A member did, yeah.
On the website, they private California company has come up with a breathalyzer unit to test for THC. They're claiming, and it can test for parts per million. So the problem here with this is and they're saying they can find out you've used the product within 2 hours. The problem with this is, and I've studied health and the human body extensively. I've been to school for this stuff for a very long time. And the problem with this is when you inhale some kind of smoke and exhale it, there's nothing that's staying in the lung tissue area, right? If you drink alcohol, it affects your lungs. It digests through the liver, and the liver actually puts it into the bloodstream. It comes out your pores. It actually it's alcohol, so it's trying to evaporate and leave the body through osmosis. And it's trying to it goes through the lungs. And so the lungs is a place they can actually test for alcohol. Marijuana doesn't work the same way. Marijuana, once it goes into the bloodstream, wants to get into your fat cells and stay stored. It's not trying to escape the body. This is why piss and blood tests are often used to find if you've used cannabis. So it doesn't work the same. So this company's came out, said they have the breathalyzer thing, and I just, right at this point, I'm just saying I'm incredibly skeptical that there's ever going to be a device that can test that.
And remember, there are thousands of medical marijuana patients out there, patients that have a legal right to use the medicine, a legal right to consume it. They use it every single day. So let's look at what it says inside of any prescription drug you use that might change your perception, might change your sense of reality or your balance. Something in there will say, don't use such and such until you know how such and such affects
you.
So that being said, there are people and that I know who could smoke a bag of weed on the way to court and be absolutely fine. There are other people who can only do 2 pokes and they shouldn't drive.
Everybody's different.
So personal responsibility is what comes into play.
And there's people that'll eat like 3 Xanaxes and drive to work every morning.
And that's what I was just going to say.
And actually be fine when they
and actually be fine.
But with the DUI, the umbrella of DUI, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean that because you're smoking on weed, you're going to go up. I mean, there's prescription drugs. There's
which is right now the number one epidemic in the country.
Yep. Right.
So if you have to take any like a driving education classes like DDP, which is Defensive Driving Program, if you've gotten a DWI, or you have to work with any of these people in like Victim Impact Panel for the DWIs, or you have to go to any of these extra classes. And I know a lot of people that have been to these classes, and I've worked closely with a lot of the people that are in New York State that are the teachers and instructors on who teach you all of the things that are impairing you while driving and what you should be doing. You take these classes and they tell you that if you take a shot of whiskey, that's 1 hour you have to wait before you drive. If you drink 2 beers, that's 2 hours before you can drive, right?
So reasonable.
So, right. which is very reasonable.
No, I mean it's not reasonable for some
I can drink 2 beers. I could drive a car.
Right. Or 2 beers and I shouldn't drive.
Well, so they're testing. So they have like this whole criteria set up for alcohol, and what they want to do is they want to do the same thing with cannabis, so that the states and the local districts can pull you over and tax you. Because let's face it, right now the biggest money maker in most states is DWI charges.
You know what we have, though, Z? We have always had, well, not always, because it's relatively new one component of it, but this term should never be DUI, driving while
driving under the influence.
Under the influence.
Yeah.
Well, what's the influence? You know, no one, and I want to be perfectly clear, and I don't want anybody to ever think I said differently. No one should drive impaired.
Right.
No one should get behind the wheel
I agree.
of a vehicle and drive impaired ever. So what is impairment? And how do you prove impairment? Well, a blood test, I don't care if it's for cannabis or alcohol or even any other drugs. A blood test only proves that someone consumed something. It doesn't prove you were impaired. So how do we prove impairment?
It doesn't even prove how much you've ingested.
Aren't the police don't they all have body cams now? Aren't they all armed with that camera? And at the very end of a DUI charge or of a DWI charge, if you take it far enough, it means eventually, if you fight, you're going to go to trial. And there's going to be a jury. So if I'm sitting on that jury and I see a video of any one of you guys, and you can't count backwards from 100 to 96, and you can't walk a straight line for 5 steps, and you're slurring your speech, and you're obviously shit-faced, I'm voting guilty, buddy. And I don't care if your breathalyzer says that you weren't tanked, and I don't care if the THC says that you weren't impaired. You're obviously impaired, and it works the other way too.
Right.
Yeah, the breathalyzer units, even when you get DWI, are just an additional factor to why you were being pulled over. Like, so that's just another thing that's pushing you towards being arrested
Rest
for
his soul.
substance abuse.
I buried my older brother to late stage alcoholism. My brother was another great, fantastic musician, but in his heyday, that man could drink a case and a half of beer, chase it down with shots of Jack, and I'd get in the car with him because he'd drive better than me if I had two beers. I mean, I might be exaggerating a little bit. He could drive copious amounts of alcohol to get straight.
Well, and the funny thing is that there's people that they can drink, their tolerance is up. And like, again, if you take any of these state certified courses, they tell you that, you know, the reason they have it down to 2 beers or 1 beer and wait an hour is because that's a generalization.
That's an average.
It's an average. And most people that drink and, you know, party on the weekends and stuff, they could drink, their blood alcohol level could be, 1.2, which is super almost dead, and still driving a car home every night and like have no problems, right? So that's also why the state has like higher penalties for how high your blood alcohol level is. They're not going to be able to do that with THC. Oh, you have so much THC in your blood, so that means you get an extra $200 fine. They won't ever be able to do that because that THC you smoked 2 months ago is also going to be in your system. So they're trying to come up with this. I don't know really why. I mean, I'm all on board with like saving lives, but the thing is that if you ever watch Cheech and Chong, I mean, the worst you're gonna do smoking a joint and driving, in my opinion, is you're just gonna park cockeyed and like just look dumb, and you're gonna go slow. You're not gonna be speeding
Right.
And that's what I want to look at the other, when you said about, you know, people saving lives and stuff, you know, I want to see like the statistics. Yeah, I can't talk on people who died from drinking and driving versus smoking marijuana.
Yeah,
you know, like how many, you don't hear people
really,
like, oh,
it's
you know,
really
like,
almost impossible to find causation with marijuana.
Well, they just had a guy on the Senate. Did you see this interview? They just I forgot who it was. I think his name starts with a C. They just had a guy. He was brought before Sessions and all these other anti-marijuana lobbyists in a federal court. And they were asking him, he's the head of the FDA, and they're asking him, I was like, well, what's the research? And he's like, well, the research is, it's you're going to getting access. He goes, no, seriously, like, what is the statistic? Give me a rating on how many people die from drunk driving or get arrested for drunk driving versus the amount of people that you have arrested for impairment with from cannabis. And he says, well, we don't have any. Like, they have none. There's nothing that's ever been reported. Not a single person has come forward and said, I crashed in that telephone pole because I smoked a joint.
And that problem still exists if you take blood tests of people who have died in automobile accidents and you find alcohol in their systems. Well, that's certainly going to mean, in any measurable amount, it's pretty much causation is going to be there if it's a huge amount for them. Cannabis, you can still only prove that the victim smoked cannabis sometimes in the last month.
Sometime in the last 4 months, right?
I mean, but they'll use that, and to get back to what Mark's question originally was, it got us off on this. Our DWIs going up in Colorado. That
Oneida County.
No, Oneida County, and on our state, since it's been medically
in Oneida County. Since medical.
And so the other reason why
for medical, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, the other reason why
I'm going to reply to that.
The other reason why that
it doesn't say under the influence of cannabis. It just says DUI.
Right.
That's all it says.
Since medical marijuana,
it didn't even say that.
How many of us are there even using medical marijuana in Oneida County?
So DUI might be up right now because there's more of a crackdown on driving under the influence of anything in upstate New York.
Yeah, think of the opiate problem that's going on.
Right.
And the heroin epidemic.
Most people don't know, but
cocaine's everywhere.
Most people don't know, but it's been Speed Week. Most people don't know that like these police departments, they actually have something called Speed Week. For that week, they look for people that are speeding at all.
Well, they tell us. Yeah.
And not so many people know these things. They don't know that like this past week was Speed Week. So some people got DWIs because they were speeding and they were drinking. People don't understand that like the DMV is a separate entity from our state. The DMV has its own court rules and systems. That is its own entity. And you're looking at me like, Ray, I don't know. I can tell you, I know this from experience, and my attorney will back me up, that it is its own separate entity. So if you get busted for like a DWI, the DMV finds you. The DMV finds you guilty or not guilty, and then you got to go to that county courthouse that you got busted in, and they trial you, and they find you guilty or not guilty, and they fine you. And so you're getting double blasted because the DMV is its own entity. It has its own regulations. And I don't know how long that's been because I don't ever remember that when I was a kid getting traffic tickets, but I can tell you now it's a way bigger deal. And, you know, when it comes to the DUI business, again, like, you couldn't even prove that someone just popped a Xanax that day.
So you're telling me the DMV has separate laws from the state level?
Yeah, I don't.
State laws.
I know there are surcharges if you get a ticket.
It's not laws. It's like regulations. Like, so if you are fined by the DMV and you don't pay that fine, they take your license.
I've never heard of a fine.
If you are fined by your local county and you don't pay that, they tell the DMV to take your license. That's the difference. The DMV has, I'm telling you 100%, that's 100% true. If you don't pay your fine to the DMV, they can actually suspend your license. That's it. Huh. There's a separation between when you're, and so I'm talking about this mainly on the DWI, DUI level. Right? So you're going to get busted in a county. They have their own regulations on how that stuff works, and DMV has their own views, opinions, and regulations of how that works. They're both following a law. They're both following the same law, but how they go about treating that situation is different. DMV has their own court system as well. So again, they find you guilty or not guilty. If you got busted for a DWI tonight, DMV is going to find you guilty or not guilty. And then the county you got busted is going to find you guilty or not guilty. So we don't have this separation. Yeah, I'm telling you.
And the thing I don't understand is how they're going to look, what are going to be the causes to suspect you of driving high?
Right, so that's what I'm talking about. Like,
unless they can actually smell it on you.
There's nothing in place for the DMV to deal with it, and there's nothing in place for the state to deal with it.
Enter the drug recognition expert.
Well, okay, so I got red eyes. Okay, maybe I got hay fever.
But a drug record, and and I'm not really.
What is that?
This is a new term, and this is a new job description, and we're seeing it in other states, and we're going to see it here too. I pretty much believe it's going to happen. The drug recognition expert. So here's a person who works for law enforcement, who goes out and if a police officer, and I would hope they do. A police officer suspects that you're on a substance. And maybe the police officers hopefully will become drug recognition experts, but it will be more than you're suspected at first because of the way you're driving. You're driving erratically. Hopefully that's on camera. Cool. Now you're asked to speak with the officer. The officer suspects the way you're talking and the way your demeanor is.
And the tie-dye you were wearing.
Well, and hopefully that isn't it, because the drug recognition expert isn't going to be looking at your clothes. If it's right, he's going to be looking at he's going to be looking at physiological things that we know happen to human beings when they're intoxicated. So if you bring somebody in that can reasonably, along with the drug recognition expert, the video of you, and without any mechanical or chemical blood or urine test necessary, I'd be okay if they determined that you really shouldn't be driving, and your lawyer would have that ammunition too. The drug expert, is he wrong? The jury's going to also look at that video. So
it's kind of the same thing with the breathalyzer too. They have to have an expert come in, and give you the breathalyzer.
I'm cool with that because again, it goes back to the fact I don't want people driving impaired.
Breathalyzers are administered by the officer roadside and in the office.
Well, legally, they're supposed to have an expert come in and give you the breathalyzer, and that's legally, and
also give you results give you results and all that. Yeah. And this is why a lot of people they can fight DWI, and again, after $10,000.
The real truth is, though, people cannabis on the highways, if it were the huge problem they want to paint that it's going to be, I mean,
they got to have research.
Number one, when they talk about these things, they talk about it as if it's new. It's not new, people.
Yeah, there's a lot.
It's
There's
not
millions
new.
of Americans that
There's
are
been
driving
people
around.
driving on the roads under the influence of cannabis just because they're legal.
Not just that, though. Like,
All that's going to do is make shit we buy it here
So-
and not here, but we always had it.
This
and
should-
those who drove always drove.
this should be one of the reasons why the state itself and other states should push for more research. Like, do a research panel on what 25 guys smoking a quarter ounce of weed 5 times a day.
I'd like to be on that
driving
panel.
around.
It's
I mean,
grossly over exaggerated.
I'm sure there'll be a Craigslist ad.
The
for,
highway
like-
safety concern, I believe, is grossly over exaggerated.
Yeah.
Not that it isn't serious when it happens.
It's part of the lobbying power that they're trying to go anti with some of this. New Jersey just faced a huge defense about this. Like, a whole bunch of people in New Jersey went to the governor, who is now pro cannabis, and New Jersey wants to go recreational, and they had youth panels, they had all kinds of people, and he sat down and he met with all them, looked at all their criteria and everything, and at the end of it, he came out the next day and said, you know what, I listened to everything everyone had to say. I'm still pro recreational marijuana in New Jersey, and my main reason is because we have black youth here that most of their arrests statistically is because of marijuana, and they're doing 20-year sentences for catching like an eighth
a seed in
3 grams of cannabis
Yeah.
in a 20-year sentence. That's ludicrous, man. That's ludicrous.
Still happening.
Crystal Page cracks me up. He says, I'm already a drug recognition expert. Show me the drug, I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
And,
right.
and if he wants any. Thanks for checking in. If everybody could do us a favor, too, click the share button. Spread the word of Legalize at CNY, and, of course, here,
Please
your buddies
do.
here at
Yeah.
the D. Spread the word, people. We do. We need this to happen. It's going to happen eventually, though.
It's so
especially
close.
here in upstate New York and New York.
I mean, it's still the Wild West in every state. I mean, even Colorado's looking like, the golden child. But at the same time, when it comes to legislation and it comes to some of these issues that parents and other people are raising, there's still a lot of stuff that's unknown. So it's still the Wild West. I just want to be one of the cowboys that's in on it. I want our state to be one of the good old boys that's like, we're all for cannabis.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
This is a green state, man.
Then it becomes like, what can we do, and where should we focus our energies? And my thing right now is look at what we've done, look at where we are. I think whatever's going to come out of Albany, it's a done deal. It's whatever is going to be is going to be. It's already decided. The governor's pretty clear on that. I think we're going to get the legalization. People have to realize on day one that when he signs, maybe it'll be next February. He'll sign. Cannabis won't be legal in New York State. Then it'll just be okay for all the counties to say, "Do we want this?" And that's when the fights begin.
Yeah, it's going to get tricky.
So
That's
to
how it
me,
usually goes.
the best thing we can possibly do, one conversation at a time, family members around the dinner table, at the bars when you're out, around people who may or may not historically be on board with it. Try to normalize the idea. Make people understand that this is coming. And, even with kids, the big thing, what about the children? Well, there are going to be some stores, and there are going to be stores that are going to have some marijuana leaves in the window. What are you going to say to your kid when you see that store? You're going to pull the kid away and say, "This is terrible."
What do you say when you say they see a beer or a cigarette?
Well, you have, and the answers are reasonable conversations.
That's Daddy's thing. He has that every night.
But the idea is to normalize, for us now to normalize the idea, so when it comes down to politics, and it's going to, I hate that it does, but it'll come down to
100%.
politics, and politics will come down to local. And when it comes down to the local level, that's when we get to decide, do we have it within our reach, or do we have to drive to New York City to get it? It'll be a big thing. And it's not just the jobs, because if we do have it within our reach, I mean, the jobs is a big thing. It's not just can we get it. If we can bring it here, a robust, great industry with all the, like we said before, with all the components from seed to harvest, from seed to consumption, that's a whole lot of people that could be put to work.
Absolutely. We have some fertile land up here, too.
Yeah, New York does. Yeah,
and we got tons of farmers out there. Like, this puts them back to work.
They're hurting right now.
You're not kidding. So to me, the main point is to normalize it. So, and to abandon this notion that as soon as the governor says, okay, like he says, everybody's going to light up joints, and it's not.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
It just opens like national, taking it off the EP.
The DEA.
The DEA, the PTA list. Taking it off all those lists at the federal level lets the states decide. State legalization lets the counties decide. And it may come down to county legalization lets the villages decide. I mean,
for real. Like
follow what's going on in Massachusetts.
That's an excellent idea, too, about getting it normalized in the household and having the discussion and bringing up the conversation.
Absolutely.
And getting into people's heads, pretty much.
Education too, man. Like,
exactly.
Because you can't really do anything if you don't understand what you're talking about. And there's just been so much skewed research and history on the subject that we all need to like learn a little bit every day and understand what's happening and how it's turning around. And that's what our group's about, is spreading education and trying to normalize it and promote it as like it could be something not just good for people. It's not like back in the day, like in California when they were going to legalize it, everyone that smoked was like, oh yeah, man, I'm all about it. It's for medicine. It's medicine. It's not even like so much like that for us here in New York. For us here in New York, it's like this could actually, New York State and New York City have always been lumped together as like a big thing. And there's always been like this fight, like, should we separate from New York City?
I wish.
Right. And it's never going to happen, right? That's probably never going to happen. But if New York State was growing cannabis, oh my God, like we've solved our problems. We don't need to separate, in my opinion. We can actually build a surplus, and we can actually use that money in each individual county, each individual township. It's going to replenish everything. You can rebuild your historical monuments.
Infrastructure.
Drug tourism.
The thruway could be free.
Yeah, right.
The thruway could be free.
The thruway will be free for everybody. But drug tourism is also a big deal. Think about like cannabis in the Adirondacks, dude. How cool would it be if you go to a forest port and there's like a little head shop that you can go and drink coffee and then go kayaking?
It's my house.
And then go see like and then go see like some music and hang out at the water park with your kids. Like, I mean, the tourism aspect is also huge. Like Colorado, there's Uber blew up in Colorado and these other places mainly because people got off the plane, ordered an Uber, and said, "Take me to the first closest head shop you can." Like that's been happening everywhere out in those countries or out in those states. So, yeah, I mean, it's really a problem though. Like Gary was saying, like at the township level and the county levels, right? Boston, when I was going out there, when my company that I worked for here in New York was sending me out there for growers meetings and stuff like that with some of these other big growers around the country, we would go to Boston because they've already recreationalized it. It's been like that for what now, a year, over a year?
Months.
It's not yet.
Oh, it's not.
Oh, it still hasn't went through.
Massachusetts.
But
there's no dispensaries open yet.
No dispensaries open, but
they legalized for home grow.
No, well, I mean for medically, it's been over a year.
Well over.
Yeah, well over a year.
When they're way ahead.
So I was going out there for the medical conferences and talking to a lot of the growers for the medical facilities and stuff, because that's what I did. So I was out there rubbing elbows with all these other growers, and one of the things they were telling me is a big problem they were having is some of these guys had their license and their shop already set up, and they're waiting for the recreational to go through before they really open their doors because they wanted to be recreational more than medical. But what's happening is some of those growers, they couldn't even get their license yet because the county, even though the state said it's legal, we're going to legalize it recreationally, the counties were pushing back and saying, we don't want this in our homegrown little community. We do not want this here.
And they can say no, and they don't have to have it.
And so they're holding up like lots of licensures and grows and stuff. So a lot of those guys have to go out and get lawyers and push it or move, and so that's happening in a lot of places. So being in the home and having discussions in the home, because your parents and my parents and and other people are going to vote for candidates that are supporting this on their dockets, and that's really what we want to look for. We want to look for those guys that are supporting it, and we want to make sure that our mom and dad are cool. They're already cool with us smoking it. I want to make sure that they're also cool with the rest of the population in my county smoking it, and the rest of the population in my city smoking it. You know,
So mainly to remind the listeners and everybody, it's not a done deal.
Right.
You know, even when New York signs legislation making it okay statewide, it's not a done deal.
Well, Chris is saying it's never going to happen until Como figures out how he gets his cut.
Yeah, I know. I hear that a lot.
He's already figured that out.
Yeah,
Trust me.
that's all, you know.
He wouldn't be widely saying.
Oh, the governor personally gets a cut. I don't know where it's coming from.
He's also saying it usually comes down to money and,
It always does.
And politics,
and that could be why some of these counties are holding up, but would probably want their cut.
So so that's also a big grievance. Yeah, there is a battle between how the counties and smaller infrastructures like the small towns and stuff get their cut of what's happening.
That'll all be part of the legislation, and it is everywhere in Massachusetts. It's put forth as part of the law. The counties can charge as much as X% on top of. States can charge as much of X% on top of. And the thing they're going to have to be careful is they can't tax it to the point where the average user says, "Well,
Can't
that's
afford
cool,
it,
but I
right.
can just still go around the guy behind the high school and get it."
Which is what happens with
Okay, not the high school, not the high school.
so
Behind City Hall.
not
Look at
at
that.
the
It's 420 right now. Isn't it?
It's not. Another interesting thing is that these small places they want their cuts. They're going to be able to tax them and stuff, but they can also actually say how many grow operations they'll allow in their township.
Well,
how many.
That's all part of the legislation.
So what we need, but what we need to focus on is, okay, what do we, as people who want to benefit from legalization of cannabis, what do we think is good practices and laws and legislation, right? Because that's the big deal, right? We want to vote for the guy who has our best interests. And me and Gary both agree on one big thing for sure, is that if you look at all the other recreational places, they have home use and home growing, which means in Colorado and California, a lot of these other places, when it's recreational, you can grow up to 6 plants per person for personal use. You can make your own medicine, and that makes it like we said before, 100%. You know what you put in it because you're the one who made it. Now, what we are concerned about is that that's going to be an issue. Because if they force you to only buy from dispensaries, then that is really difficult. And that's not the legislation that I want. I want the legislation that allows me to grow my 6, and I can go buy your products if I want to.
Like I have a farmer's market, but with weed.
That would be awesome.
Nice. And they do sell wines at farmers markets. So there may come a day. I mean, wines
It would be
intoxicants
pretty cool, right?
I want to switch it up too, because technology's been such a big thing, and people don't smoke flower anymore.
They should be.
The young kids call that old fashioned nowadays.
They call it old fashioned, right?
Yeah.
And so the technology has definitely evolved in the whole cultivating of cannabis. I mean, even with the LED lights and the nutrients and stuff like that, and everything's on rollers. From just growing all the way up to ingesting has changed immensely since we were kids.
I think in cultivation, that's just a normal turn of events. Technology, goes forward, and we're able to grow healthier, more robust, more productive plants. That's fine.
On that same tip, that creates jobs.
Because
as somebody who worked in the marijuana growing facilities, there are not enough products that are specialized for industrial cannabis growing. Like when it comes to grinding up like your flower, or when it comes to harvesting, like we don't have big machines that harvest. We don't have any of that stuff. It literally is like bare hand operation. And there's going to come a time where the demand is going to be much higher than we can supply. We've already seen that once in Colorado. And they, like me and Gary were talking on the way up here, they were ready. They actually had other dispensaries that they were going to pull from if it got weird. And what they did is they actually taxed medical patients even more money just to get their medical supply, because they were tapping into the medical patient supply for the recreational people, because they were just raking money hand over fist, and they were not going to turn away anybody.
Right.
So they were dipping into into the medical. And so and a lot of people don't understand the difference between recreational and medical. So the difference is this: medical marijuana is grown with regulations on what can be put into the soil, into the plant, how it can be harvested, and what is in it before consumption.
Can I just tell you, I don't like the term medical marijuana.
It's very strange.
Because it's all medical.
And I don't like
every kind of marijuana is medical.
I don't like the term recreational, you know
Right.
why?
That's-
Because I like the word wellness
Right.
much better.
And that's why they're coining it adult use in most states. But
adult use, I'll go with that.
So the difference, the reason why they call it medical is not because it's a medicine or anything. It's because medical refers to how it's been overseen and grown. Recreational, if you go to any recreational facility in Colorado, California, or anywhere, and they say this bud is 100% organic that you're buying, never put any chemicals in it or sprayed it or did anything else, that's all bullshit, because there's no committee that oversees that. They can tell you anything they want about that cannabis, but unless you personally have the lab results in front of you from their lab testing, you know absolutely nothing about what's in that cannabis.
Massachusetts is on top of that.
In fact, in Colorado, there was tons of fining because there was people that were claiming organic on their product, and they were using a pesticide that is illegal in the United States, and it was going into their medical marijuana. Now, that's what, when you hear the term medical marijuana, it doesn't mean it was really good and it was grown and it's like the headies and it's the best shit you can buy.
Right.
Medical marijuana means that came from a facility that is airtight. It's grown in a clean room. There's absolutely no dust particles. It's flushed out every time it's harvest. It's a pure product that has to pass certain criteria for it to actually be medicine. Everything else is recreational.
Gotcha.
And CBD...
I'm glad you clarified that.
And as we were talking about CBD earlier, CBD has absolutely no medical oversight. So all the CBD that you're getting right now, a lot of people are really big with CBD distillery. I kind of like them. It's okay. But when it comes to CBD, it's legal to grow the hemp products. And people are jumping on the extract bandwagon. Like, so if you grow hemp for some other commercial reason, you can now extract CBD from the hemp and market it in like a little thing, and you can give it to people and they can smoke it and feel the effects of CBD. The problem with that is, again, there's no regulatory factions over the growing of hemp for consumption. And this is why a lot of people want stuff like FDA regulations and things like that.
I don't mind that. No.
So if you have an FDA regulated cannabis faction for cannabis, like it's a part of your state, you have a medical FDA recommended checklist of things that you have to meet in order to be consumed, that will assure that if you go buy a product tomorrow and that guy says it's organic bud, it better be 100% organic bud, because if you smoke it and you have a reaction, now you can sue that person. If you smoke CBD right now and try to go sue that person because it gave you a reaction, that guy's going to say, oh, sorry, well, you know, I claimed that it was organic and everything, but there's no regulatory factions that keep me in place saying I have to do this or have to do that. I don't have to do anything. And that's why there's so much argument between making CBD legal on the FDA and so it's really weird. It still is the wild, wild west, people. There is nobody regulating anything that's happening with your cannabis. And the absolute only way that you can know that cannabis was 100% healthy and organic is if you grew it yourself.
Yeah.
How do they extract the CBD from the cannabis?
So they take the cannabis. A lot of places they're going to do CO2 extraction. So they put it in a massive tube.
Kind of like making wax, right?
Right, exactly what.
Whole plant extraction.
It's exactly that.
Okay.
They blast it high power pressured CBD or CO2, and it comes out in this massive wax. And then they dissolve that in an alcohol solution, and then they use a rotovap, which means they put a little bit of heat on it, and the alcohol evaporates fast at low heat, leaving just the substance. Then they take that and they run it through machines and extract exactly 100% THC from that.
Wow. So it's a process.
It's a wicked process to produce like just a jar of or of any kind of oil, THC or CBD oil. It takes easily like 12 to 24 hours, and that's from grinding the plant to extraction. So it'll take almost 2 days before you actually have enough oil that you can utilize for personal use. So it's a huge and it's science. It's science.
Oh, yeah.
It's alchemical. All those kids in science that never did anything, look for cannabis jobs. The industry right now is huge. If you have degrees in biology and chemistry and horticulture, you should be looking for a job in the cannabis industry. Everybody should be thinking about, how am I going to get in on this? New York is not going to make it easy for us. They're not going to make it so that all of us can be green millionaires like you saw in Colorado. It's actually on purpose that we're not seeing that here. They do not want that to happen. Las Vegas has tried to do that. A lot of places have hit a lot of snags, and we're going to continue to see that because, again, it is the wild, wild west. But people don't know what's happening. People are not informed, and that's largely what we want to do, is inform people what's actually happened. Like, where are we?
Yeah,
here's a real
normalization,
perspective.
man.
And Vegas is nuts. I was there back in February. There's a dispensary on every corner now.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And they're fancy.
Think about it, and you talk about the possibilities in New York, and the news just came out a couple days ago. The federal government has, it's always been true, but the federal government has just come out and was the Department of the Interior? I forget which department, but have said that Native American tribes.
Oh yeah, this is huge.
Yeah, do
sovereign.
Go ahead if you want to do it. We're not going to bother you.
So no, actually, what they said was sovereign nations.
Right. Well, that's what they are.
District of Columbia is a sovereign nation. Our capital is a sovereign nation.
Well, they were talking about Indian tribes,
reservations.
Yeah, reservations. So there was. I'm just saying that they legit the legislation said sovereign nations. Yeah. So that means District of Columbia could be right up there if they wanted.
Maybe.
But they're saying that people that live in a sovereign territory, they can right now legalize.
They
marijuana.
Always could,
right?
But
they're saying they can pop up a dispensary.
So
it was a gray area of the federal government.
So the Turning Stone right now technically could be selling.
And that's my point. You just said Las Vegas. I know people in Las Vegas.
I can't believe they didn't release.
It's a huge success in Las Vegas.
Honestly.
Las Vegas has instantly brought in a whole component of not only customers, happy customers, hungry customers, well-behaved customers, customers with money.
The Vegas experience.
Kind of what we would really like to happen right over here in Verona, Ray. So if you're listening, you could instantly open a vapor lounge. You could instantly create your own brand. You could instantly bring probably
all that
the greatest customer base you have ever seen in your casino. The people that'll be most pleasure to serve. They're not going to give you trouble. They're not going to fight. They probably won't even litter.
They'll eat.
They'll eat like crazy. They'll consume and they'll gamble.
They couldn't do it at the Turning Stone, though, because that is not on sovereign nation. Like, the facility has to be on sovereign territory, like a reservation. Has to be on the reservation sovereign nation. So he could maybe get like buses from like the sovereign territory.
I don't know the mechanics of it, but the way the article I read was, they can't. They're gambling on.
Well, Turning Stone Casino is not. It's on New York State land. It's not actually on. It's not on sovereign land.
No, true. It's what do they call it?
But in Las Vegas, it's a way different deal.
And I'm only comparing the two in terms of the gambling. It's a gambling mecca. Well, say what you want about the Turning Stone, and it's really cool, all the bands that play there and everything. It sits on a foundation of gambling or nobody does anything.
Right.
That's what it is. That's what it's always been. And I've played there, and I'm really thankful a lot of musicians are put to work there, of course.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what it's going to be like there when they do recreationalize marijuana at the casino?
If it's also recreationalized in the city of Utica, then maybe,
I think you'd have to go outside to smoke it, just like you do cigarettes.
Or would you do like a cigar bar type thing where you have the ventilation and you could smoke into that?
So this is what New York's looking at right now when they talk about adult use. Like, they're thinking about actually making specific bars. And if you
need to.
It's going to be a cannabis bar, but the cannabis bar cannot serve alcohol. It can only serve cannabis and edibles, and you can buy food and drinks and Coca-Cola.
That's how I
products.
felt like at the dispensary in Vegas. It felt like you were hanging out in like a
And there's
cannabis
also
bar.
the mindset, and we'll see what they do. The mindset that says you can open a place where you can consume cannabis, but you can't sell any.
Yeah, that's probably how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Bring
which is-
your own, which
is-
would be cheaper. So that's probably.
I have a friend who, in high school, he left here and moved to Colorado, and I followed him out there years later. And I was there when Breckenridge made it publicly known that you could carry an ounce of marijuana on your person publicly. So I was there, and the streets got awesome, like real quick in Colorado. And then, so there was no coincidence that they were like, we're going to recreationalize this like in the next month then. Fuck it. These people are loving this stuff. We're going to do it. And the year before that, when I was living down there, the mayor had said publicly that he had more things to worry about than busting somebody for smoking a joint. And we literally got busted one night after that. And we all were shitting our pants, and the cop walked up, windows came down, smoke rolled out, and he was like, "How you kids doing?" And we were all just like, good." And he was like, "You're not drinking tonight, are you?" "No, sir." He's like, "Okay, you guys drive safe," and then just walked away. Wow. I was like, I can't believe that just happened. Mm-hmm. And then, shortly after, it went recreational. But I have a friend who moved out there, and he opened a small business making like pastries or crepes or something. I can't remember what he did back then. He was a cook. Later on, he opened up a small business where on the side of that, as soon as it went recreational, he started selling edibles. So he actually joined the legion of people that were making money from this cannabis revolution in Colorado. And I think that personally, I want to see that. I want to see that for New York. And it's not going to happen where you and I are going to open up a grow shop or a dispensary, because if you open a grow shop, you have to have a dispensary. If you open up a dispensary, you have to have your own grow operation. That's the New York State laws for opening up the dispensary. Yes, it is 100%. If I worked in the industry.
There's no dispensary. We haven't even gotten there.
Yeah, it hasn't even got there yet.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, the dispensaries are those places that you go and you buy those pens.
No, you're talking about the New York State Compassionate Care Act.
The passion? No.
No, you're talking about what we have now.
What we have now, we call them dispensaries.
Right.
Or we call them
medical.
Right. They're medical dispensaries.
Right.
But it's not going to be a thing where you and I, once it goes recreational, are going to be able to open just a dispensary.
Right.
Right.
We don't know.
They'll make you jump through so many.
We don't know. They haven't told us yet.
They haven't told us, but what they have on the books right now for people that want to do that is, first off, you have.
Well, they're not even accepting applications right now.
You have to have $100,000
right.
just to apply.
That's the medical program.
So yeah, and so what I'm saying is, like, it's not going to be a thing where when they I don't foresee it being. Let me say it like that.
Well,
I don't foresee it being a thing when they say, okay, it's going to go recreational, that you and I are going to be able to go out, buy a joint, and like start having the dispensary. What we are going to look at is being able to get on it in some way, shape, or fashion. So. Yeah. For all those people that are like, well, I don't have $1 million to open up the grow facility to do the medical program, you really should be looking at what things you have already in your grab bag. Or go back to school and get some classes in chemistry.
I think we have to see what they do, because in Massachusetts, for instance, they're awarding grow licenses by the square foot. So if you're very small, you can do it.
Yeah. So Massachusetts has a completely different plan, though.
But we don't have any plan yet. That's my point. We have to make sure we recognize that New York hasn't done anything recreationally yet. We have this failure of a medical marijuana program.
I think the point he was trying to make was that you don't have to have millions of dollars to jump on to the bandwagon.
Not Massachusetts. You don't.
Well, I'm just saying. I think the point you were trying to make is,
and I hope
there's other entities that you can actually make money.
He could be absolutely right.
Yeah,
I'm hoping he's right.
He's looking at the alternative routes to make money on this rather than being
it's
a
an
grower.
industry.
Yeah,
you can
all kinds of ways.
You can be a consultant.
Right.
You can be a consultant and showing people what strains or a salesperson or
so. Yeah, that's definitely the main point.
Yeah, I'm all over that.
Like everybody should be thinking about how they are going to get in on the green rush.
Yeah.
Not on the fact that they aren't going to be getting in on the green rush.
And that's kind of what I tell people. They take for granted, oh, you're going to be rich. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do yet because New York hasn't told me what I'm allowed to do yet.
Exactly.
And here's the thing, you may not get rich, but people are going to be put back to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's going to be a whole other industry that revenue creates more revenue. And it's going to help with our
Absolutely
welfare situation that we got going on, unemployment.
Yep.
I mean, there's just so
Roads.
many, and we're not even talking about industrial uses yet.
Nope.
I mean, we're only talking about recreational, and people are like, okay, so you want to get stoned? I get it, but you're putting money in people's pockets again.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really what we should all be concerned about when it comes to voting for these kind of things and looking at our politicians is what do they support? Like some of them are getting on the bandwagon with this green rush, quote unquote, because they are like, oh my God, remember when I ran for office at this term and I wanted to get all the infrastructure of roads fixed, but I got shot down by my oppositional party. Mm-hmm. I can't get that done, so I decided to focus somewhere else. But now they see, oh my God, revenue streams like crazy.
Yeah.
Like there's no way that as a senator or something that I'm not going to be able to get some of that. There's going to be so much. So that's what we have to look at when we're looking at like having that conversation at home, talking to people, educating people, helping them understand what's going on. Like how can we help it affect our communities?
We need to have that conversation and often, especially at the homes, and start the conversation and get that language going amongst family members and stuff, and educate. And it's all about education and knowing that cannabis isn't evil and it's not an evil thing. It has a very multi-use purpose.
And I think showing people the multiple levels that they can join in on, like you said, get part of the green rush. The people don't realize, they just think like you automatically think to just grow.
Right.
And grow and then sell. But there's transportation. Yep. Now you're putting the truck industries back in this, in trains.
And not only in terms of employment and industry and how we might get involved in the green rush, but in terms of an understanding of how beneficial the plan is. Mm-hmm. And that's why I kind of reject the word recreation and favor wellness. Because we only discovered the body's endocannabinoid system, in the 90s, Michael?
90s, yeah.
So we're really in the infancy
Yeah.
of discovering how much better it can make life for people on a day-to-day basis.
Indeed.
One word we hear again and again and again, and it has to do with how much you take, is microdosing. I love that.
It's a
term.
huge thing in the West Coast right
people
now.
are learning, because you mentioned, people just want to get stoned, and sometimes I do.
Mm-hmm.
I just really want to get stoned. I'm not doing anything else. I want to get stoned and enjoy being stoned for a while.
Right.
But the microdosing thing, people realize just a tiny bit. So when I get stoned, I get in all that better mood and everything. What if just a little bit? Little tiny bit, 4 or 5 times a day, makes your day go better, makes you work a little better, makes you be a little bit more productive, actually makes you a little bit more alert.
Better mood.
Makes you less dependent on antidepressants,
So wellness, to me, to recognize it as a wellness substance, like so many other substances, it has the potential to intoxicate you, but if used thoughtfully and purposefully, it can actually make you better day to day, because you choose to use it that way, and I hope people don't miss that point.
How many less divorces would we have if you could smoke weed? I mean, I've gotten in fights with women, and like you're going at it and you get stoned and you just don't care anymore. You know what I mean?
Divorces, bar fights, road rage. It's not a plan that's conducive to being pissed off.
I have some friends that are couples, and they tell me that if it wasn't for their own recreational use, that they would have been divorced like 100 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Like it just diffuses you enough to where like you're just like, all right, let's handle a little bit better.
Think about prohibition in terms of lost productivity. Prohibition, the people of great character and great minds and great skills who won't take a job at a place because this is what I do, damn it, and I'm not going to work for you. I'll go grow hay somewhere, The productivity or the lives have been ruined when a high school kid or a college kid gets busted and that felony stays on his record for the rest of his life, and the guy can't vote, or
and once they get you in jail, you stay there.
Can't get, or I have one patient, a member of our group, who is really despondent. He's come to me a couple times because he can't smoke because he's on the list for liver transplant.
Liver transplant.
For a
Yeah.
liver transplant. I said, cannabis is not metabolized in your liver, man. Are you sure that are you sure you're talking to your doctor? Are you sure your doctor? You should probably be talking to another doctor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because actually cannabis could be a good adjunct to your recovery and to your state of mind going into this operation that you're facing,
or at least
education,
reducing your
change
pain.
minds. Yeah, to just pain reduction will
Pain
make
reduction.
you feel better.
I have a cousin that was in a horrible construction accident, and they put him on all this medication, and he does not want to get hooked on pills, and he has to manage the pain at first, but then he weed himself off on cannabis. And now he loves Mango Kush is his thing, and it helps him, and he can walk around a little bit better.
That's also my favorite, by the way.
Yeah.
I have a friend who he was in a really bad accident and hurt he messed his spine up badly. They gave him this medication and then this pain medication, then this treatment, that treatment. Inevitably, one day I saw him and he just looked so horrible. And I was like, "What's that little buzzing?" He was like, "Oh, that's my shock therapy thing." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He had this little device that he was wearing that they literally had surgically injected into a part of his nervous system that zapped him like 300,000 times a day to keep his nervous system from causing him pain.
Wow.
And I said, "Dude, not for nothing, I'm not a doctor, but have you ever considered cannabis?" And he's like, "Man, I never touched that stuff, man. That's bad for you." And no joke, I see this kid all the time now. He just ran the Boilermaker. He bikes. He's in excellent health, and he got himself off everything. And the doctors had told him that the last avenue was basically some kind of surgery that could have maybe made him a paraplegic if it went wrong.
Right.
And so last chance he decided to take cannabis, and cannabis with CBD combined is actually helping him out phenomenally, and now he looks great. He's in great health. He doesn't take any drugs. So I mean, it's impressive. I have a personal connection to cannabis. My dad died of cancer 2 years ago, and he was at the end stages of his life fighting cancer, and it had went to his brain, and it went to some of his nervous system. He was in excruciating pain. He was really bad, and you could see that he was toughing it out. And me and my brother decided to get him some Rick Simpson oil. We gave him Rick Simpson oil, and I hadn't seen a smile on his face like that since he started fighting cannabis. And he was fighting cancer. I'm sorry. But since when he started using the cannabis, like his eating came back, like everything just kind of transitioned for him, and I think he had a better quality of life for a longer period of time because of the Rick Simpson oil that we gave him.
I bet he did.
So I have a personal connection to it. It's really big on my heart. Cancer being another thing that you guys are big promoting, helping out with. So, I'm really impressed that the cancer institutions haven't really helped cannabis more. I'm curious why there's not like a crossover, being that we all at least have some kind of idea that cannabis is good for cancer patients. And there's lots of research now to support that.
Kills cancer cells and everything.
So there's lots
the information's out there.
Right. And so it's interesting that like these big companies like Cancer Institute of America and some of the other ones that are out there, it's only the only one I really know, but it's weird that they're not kind of invested in the research part of it and things like that. So I wonder why, and I don't know if there's
probably
anybody.
because the federal government won't let him yet.
Exactly.
Boy, when they,
and
Big Farm. Yeah.
Wow.
and then there's those guys.
Jinx. You can tell we hang out with each other.
Yeah,
now.
right.
But I hope that the message we're putting forth today, and Michael telling personal stories. Please, folks, take a look at Legalize at CNY. Take a look at our group on Facebook. We're pushing 700 now. Join our group. Extreme respect to the people who join a group, because when you join a group, you put your face and your name on it. You're actually saying so. Think about this. There's 600 and something people that join the group. When I kind of asked them individually, so you join the group, how many people do you know personally? How many people do you actually know personally that really support what we're about, really support what we're doing, but can't say so for whatever reason?
Oh, yeah.
10 is the low number. 10 is a low number because any of us, I'd lose count of people.
And a lot of that fear is out of their employer.
Oh, no, I don't
Social
dispute
circles
it, and I don't
too,
blame them. Oh, yeah, I know people that work in federal government. Anybody that works at a bank, you're instantly a federal employee. People that work for the government, I know people that work in
People who work for schools.
Teachers.
Yeah.
One of our core group, and we have to recognize him, he's not here, is Dave Hawthorne.
Yep, Dave.
Because we share the administration for the group, David and I and Michael. David is the United High School band director.
Okay.
To come out, and that's really what we've done.
To be a school teacher, it's
right.
What we are doing.
You could lose your job over it.
Yeah,
well, not by saying so, but boy, it takes some
balls,
courage to say that.
It's very interesting because as we started this group, we've already seen like some backlash publicly. We've already seen. So when you come out and you say that you are somebody who's in favor of cannabis legislation, it's really vulnerable because there's a lot of people that still kind of hate it.
But I noticed that bugaboo's going away too. I know a lot of people who don't smoke and are supportive of the legalization. They realize, what, it's not my thing, but I understand it's for the betterment of everybody.
Yeah.
But and that's really what we want to do as a group with our education is at least understand that if it's not your thing personally, understand that it can help so many other people. Like personal stories that we have and other people that we've met. But yeah, there still is like a backlash of people, community wise.
And I see like Hollywood is making more of an effort to normalize it, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Or I believe you were saying. You watch certain TV shows, you'll see them smoking weed in the background.
Oh yes,
they make it just kind of like
it's way more prevalent.
It's people get stoned.
Think back to last April 20th. You couldn't turn on the news broadcast of any station, any network, even local. They were all doing pieces on it. I turned on national news on April 20th. I saw the national news was in MedMen's Los Angeles dispensary. That was national news that day.
Wow.
Now, normalization, we're getting there. So please, people.
Yeah, and this
Michael just said, share your stories with us.
And get educated.
Yeah.
And educate each other if you're already educated on it. Educate your older family members or people that, like Chicken said, maybe not into it.
Right.
Let them know the medicinal purposes and the industrial purposes that hemp and cannabis have.
And I always encourage people to take like a real industrial like head state about this because again, the word marijuana is pretty outdated. Even recreation, people aren't using recreational anymore. They're using the word adult use or holistic wellness.
Right.
So I encourage all the people that are for cannabis in any way to really like look at it in an industrial sense. Like talk to people not as a stoner. Talk to people as like a legitimate business. Like this is a
human being.
Human being.
And I noticed that's a big difference too. Is like years ago, you'd have the guy Hempster riding around Old Forge with his flag and
Legalize, right?
And you're like, oh yeah, okay, buddy. But now you got people in business suits. You got lawyers and doctors and business owners.
And you look at some of the membership. I know some of the membership personally, and have come to know them.
We got Doug over here saying he works at a hospital.
People. We have people in transportation.
Thanks,
we have a respiratory therapist. Obviously, one of our three main officers is an educator. It's across the board now.
Yeah.
Most and a lot of we have people who hurt and are being helped.
Yeah, right on. Well, gentlemen, this has been great.
It has.
This has been a great, and thanks for the T-shirts.
That's okay,
You guys T-shirts and wristbands and stuff like this.
Wristbands, spread the word.
We need to do this often. I think we should do this like maybe monthly.
Well, from now until we get our legislation, I'd be more than happy to. It was a great time.
This was a lot of fun, and I want to remind everybody they can listen to this podcast and previous podcasts of VC Radio and all the content that we have on the D at disruptionnetwork.net. Follow us on Facebook, like us on Instagram and YouTube and all that other stuff, and all the social media platforms. We're pretty much on it. We're everywhere. We're everywhere.
You are.
And if you guys can do us a favor too, just click the share button too. This is very educational today, and I think we had a lot of great content today.
Yep. And to all of our members, this is it, guys.
How can they find you on the Facebook?
It's just Legalize at CNY.
Okay.
Just search for it. We'll pop up. We're the only one with those words.
Nice. Awesome. Before we get out of here, love and respect out to the sponsors, Nye Volkswagen in Rome. Stop into their showroom at 5865 Taberg Road in Rome and see why it's easy to do business with Nye Volkswagen and see why all their customers love their Nye VW. Mention Disruption Network and get a $250 off any purchase. All you got to do is go in there and say, hey, we know the D. We know the guy, your friends over at the D. They're talking about you.
Yep.
They pretty much shave off $250 off any purchase. Check out their inventory at nyvdubofrome.com. And if you need legal help quick and because you got a roach in your ashtray and you get pulled over, if you get pulled over and your car is just reeking of weed and whatnot, and you're in trouble, call Nick Pasalacqua, our good friend, attorney Nick Pasalacqua, and his team of associates at 315-500-NICK. Hit him up online, CNYtriallaw.com. Tomorrow's show, Trampoline Jetstream coming in. They're playing the big K-Rock show for free for all, and they're pretty pumped.
Nice.
They're pretty pumped.
They should be.
Come
It's
in.
a good show for them.
Love those kids, man. They're blowing up, man. They're doing very, very, very well. I'm proud of those guys. A lot of great music going on around Central New York these days. So much talent, right?
Tons of
Indeed.
it.
Mike, when you were on the last time, we sat here and we did a whole podcast on all the great bands in the area and Syracuse.
Yeah, I think we gave like props to like everybody that we know.
We did.
Everybody got a plug that day. It was very weird.
so.
They did for sure. But Trampoline Jetstream is definitely waving the flag of the local music scene right now. It's good to see the young kids and coming up with some excellent talent. So I love seeing that. So that's tomorrow happening at 3 o'clock, and we got a lot of fun stuff. And then next week, I got to mention Chicken's taking over next week.
I'm taking over the D.
I'm going to Curveball for the whole week, so I will be out there.
And the talent continues next week.
Yeah, we got Kate Devin coming in, and
Taylor McDowell.
Taylor McDowell coming in, an amazing drummer.
Kid's sick.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on.
Oh
next
wow,
week.
you're bringing Taylor in.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Yep.
we were just talking about that the other week. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
That's
He's
awesome.
Got to bring him in.
Logan from Wakely's. He's doing a documentary on him.
He's coming in too,
Yes.
right?
Wow,
Isn't he
insane,
coming in too?
man.
So a lot of
It's gonna
good
be
stuff.
cool.
A lot of good stuff when he takes over, and then I'll be gone for like a couple weeks. And then I go 2 weeks at the fair, which I will still be doing the show live at the fair, late night though. We do it late night. They're late night recaps of all the nonsense that went on between
with the
me and
Vice?
my crew.
Right.
So
Great New York State Fair.
the Great New York State Fair. Oh yeah,
okay. I stay up for this.
I work for the production team over there, so we do all the production at Chevy Court.
Is Mike the Vice going to be there?
Mike the Vice is going to be there. We're going to do
Better bring your pasta.
We're going to do a calorie count with him on a daily basis.
Box of ziti.
I've got some fun things in the works. I'm going to be talking to Dave Frasina from The Rebel. I'm going to be talking to Joe Altier, great friend of ours. Mariah Formica, who was on The Voice. She's going to come on the podcast as well. A lot of great. Joe Driscoll, he's going to come on. So we got a lot of fun things planned for.
Last year you ran to Sons of Stark, right?
Yeah, we got a lot of good things planned for.
You never know who he's going to see.
You never know who I'm going to see. You never know. It's a lot of good stuff, but a lot of good stuff planned for the New York State Fair. So, all right, guys, thanks one more time for coming on, Gary, Mike. This has been a lot of fun, man, and
Thanks
let's
for
do this
having us,
again
guys.
really, really, really
Thanks for
soon,
having us,
man.
Free the weed, baby.
Thanks for everybody for tuning in and commenting today. If they could just click the share button and help us spread the word of Legalize at CNY and the D, that would be greatly appreciated. We'll see you tomorrow.
You know what the hell you're listening to? It's EC
Hey,
Radio.
Disruption Network. This is Mike Sacco, the general manager at Nye Volkswagen of Rome. If you don't know me by name, it's only because you have not received the best deal. There's only one reason to leave Utica, and that's to come see me in Rome and get the best deal on your next new, pre-owned, or certified VW. Mention that you heard this ad from Disruption Network and receive $250 off your next vehicle purchase. You'll know why our customers say, I love my Nye VW. Come see us at 5865 Rome Taberg Road in Rome, or visit us online at nyvwofrome.com.
The Property Sisters of the Mohawk Valley was born when 3 top producing agents with over 25 years of combined experience selling real estate joined forces to take real estate to the next level. We practice with honesty, integrity, and the knowledge to help make the buying and selling process easy and stress-free for all of our clients. We pledge to always make our clients our top priority from start to finish and even after the house is closed. We will always be a valued resource for information and assistance for our buyers and sellers. Our customers over the years have become not only past clients, but great friends. As we join hands together as the Property Sisters of the Mohawk Valley, we look forward to serving our clients and our community and making a positive difference. You can reach us at 315-601-9630 for all of your real estate needs.
Hi, this is attorney Nick Pasalacqua. The team of attorneys I have assembled at Passalacqua & Associates has been carefully hand-picked to include the best trial attorneys in the particular areas of the law that we practice. Have you been charged with DWI or any other crime? Members of our team include former assistant district attorneys, now fighting to protect your rights 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Have you or someone you love been seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident? Members of the team at Passalacqua & Associates include former insurance defense attorneys, now fighting to ensure that you get every penny you're entitled to. If you need legal help quick, don't waste your time or money calling anyone else. Remember, for legal help quick, you better call Nick and the team at Passalacqua & Associates. 315-500-NICK or 315-500-6425 or visit cnytriallaw.com today.